Radical ones, it is the darkest day in horror history with the 1985 George Romero film, Day of the Dead. It's time to get radical.
Ensure all residences are secure with all doors and windows firmly locked and barricaded.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Not people. Brains.
They're us. We're them, they're us.
Oh my god. You are dead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
The pain of being dead.
Were you bitten? Were you bitten? Did any of the blood get in your mouth?
They have overrun us, you know. We're in the minority now. Something like 400,000 to 1 by my calculation.
My father always say, when the earth spit out the dead, they will come back to suck the blood of the living.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
It's another one for the fire.
Welcome back, Radical Ones, to an all-new episode of the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. As always, I am your host, Radical Ryan Hunter, and we are continuing the Summer of the Dead with everyone's favorite brother and mine, David, with Day of the Dead from 1985. David, we're finally doing another Romero classic. We did Dawn of the Dead in our first year, and now during the Summer of the Dead, we are tackling Day of the Dead.
Some people wanted a summer of love. We decided to do a summer of death. A dead. Again.
Much like last summer, right? We had Jason.
I'm doing this thing in my head where last summer we did Friday the 13th, the whole series. Jason killed everybody.
Yeah.
But they didn't come back to life. So I'm saying that was a summer of death. This is a summer of, shall we say, rebirth, maybe?
Oh, yes.
Summer of resurrection. So, yeah. So this is not the summer. It's a different way of living. It's a different lifestyle choice.
You know what? I love that because we can celebrate life during this summer then with zombies. So we've been recording a few of our movies ahead of time, David, and we did do Romero's Land of the Dead before doing Day of the Dead for continuity. This will air prior to that, but we've been watching a lot of Romero stuff again in preparation for this.
You know, and plus we have a family vacation coming up, and things like that.
Yes, David and his family is coming to visit in New York, so we are trying to get as much as we can ahead of time, and there's a lot going on in June for all of us, and Summer of the Dead here on the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. That beats everything. That beats everyone's vacation. Just take that as you will. This is your vacation from life.
It's a Lazarus card.
Yeah, listen to our Dawn of the Dead review for that story. So, David, I mean, this is one of Romero's classic, I would say the golden age of Romero. This was, at the time, the third movie in the Dead franchise. Some people say that this was the black sheep before Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead came after, but out of the original Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead always got the most hate and was considered, out of the three, like I said, the black sheep of Romero's original trilogy. Honestly, David, and we'll get into it, I really always liked Day of the Dead, but it's still not Dawn of the Dead for me, but I'll take this over Land of the Dead any day.
Well, little known fact to you probably is that I have seen Day of the Dead more than I probably have seen any other zombie movies.
Even more than Dawn, then?
For some reason, I have always gone back to this movie. I don't know what it is, but honestly, after watching it again recently, I have more of an appreciation for it, and I'm not sure because we've been kind of amping up and ramping up for the summer and recording things and watching a lot more
zombie movies
of the genre. You know,
you could see how low a zombie movie can sink is compared to, let's just say,
oh my god, like the Italian ones or the international ones where the zombies are like
ninjas.
Yeah, it's funny, but
so,
yeah,
you know what it is? So Day of the Dead, David, I think is more of a movie that's shown on TV. I think it's a little shorter than Dawn. It's more mainstream. And I think over the years, it's been shown on TV much more than a Dawn of the Dead. Because Dawn of the Dead, you're not seeing that unless it's like the independent film channel.
Yeah, the only other movie of the Romero collection that always is one that, started it all off, which is Night of the Living Dead. That, the black and white, always seems to find its way every Christmas, every Halloween, every Christmas. It's Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead for us.
How do you think he delivers so many presents in one day? He's dead.
It's all zombies. Oh my god.
He has zombie elves.
But Night too. Night is also public domain. Night is also, it's a classic. It's a classic.
I can relate to that one song that I wrote that band stole from me. Even if they got $1, they got my money from iTunes for me to download my own song. I'm not gonna mention names, because I ain't one to gossip, but you know who you are, and you didn't make it anyway, so ha ha ha.
Oh god, wow, you know what, though?
But I'm not bitter, I'm just disappointed.
I'm disappointed for you, too. Damn.
First, he created the most frightening film ever made. Then, he took his unique vision of terror one step further. Now, George A. Romero takes us out of the night, beyond the dawn, and into the darkest day of horror the world has ever known. Day of the Dead. The most eagerly awaited day in horror film history.
Day of the Dead, 1985. This was a long time in the making. People wanted to see what Romero was going to come up with after Dawn of the Dead. And he did Creepshow after this, as well as Night Riders, which did not do very well. That was the motorcycle-esque fairy tale kingdom Romero movie that he made. And they said that by the time they got to Day of the Dead, I think the investors were kind of nervous after the last two movies that he did, so they gave them less money. So originally, we were going to get a grander Day of the Dead that took place on an island. They call it, a matter of fact, David, Tom Savini says it was the Gone with the Wind of zombie movies, originally the script. Now, Romero did say, though, that he got to do everything he wanted to do at Day of the Dead, but it was condensed down. But he got his main point across that he was trying to convey. A zombie apocalypse has ravaged the entire world, with zombies outnumbering humans 4,000 to 1. Their surviving humans live within barricaded camps and secure underground bunkers. And then in an underground facility in the Everglades, housing scientists and soldiers, the scientists are trying to find a solution to the zombie pandemic. The soldiers have been assigned to protect them. Dr. Sarah Bowman, her lover, soldier Private Miguel Salazar, radio operator Bill McDormand, and helicopter pilot John fly from their underground base to Fort Myers, Florida in an attempt to locate additional survivors. I gotta say, this is one of the best openings to a zombie movie. We've seen grander with CGI with the Dawn of the Dead remake, with how they're able to do mass numbers of zombies, but back in 1985...
I love this opening. They land this helicopter and they land, even though there's some banter about not landing, but Sarah's like, we have to see if there's any survivors. We've been up and down the coastline and what have you. They land the helicopter. They have bullhorns. First of all, you see the very beginning that Miguel is just, he's over the zombie apocalypse. He is fragile and fragile of mind and spirit, and doesn't even want to do this, and is very fearful. So you see them calling, but the amount of work they put into the downtown strip is amazing. So this downtown area, again, was so impressive to me because, there was like shredded palm trees, there was burnt out cars. And actually for a moment, I was looking and sometimes it looked like a real thing, like a real downtown, and a little bit sometimes it looked like a backdrop, a set, in a studio. So it was actually done very, very well. And there was like cool details like the theater, there's a guy in the theater box, like a zombie stuck inside. And like you hear them, they're using the bullhorn to call for people. Hello! Hello!
And that goes on for a while, David. It's like a dead area. Literally dead space.
Which is really funny because the hello that Miguel does reminds me of the hello from the guy from 28 Days Later calling when he gets out of the hospital. It
Like
almost
it sounds like, yes, Cillian Murphy, I believe that gentleman's name is. And he's, I believe, Irish, but it doesn't have that hello. Like, that is a great point. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that before. I mean, I know it's the word hello, but it's
I could have
similar.
interchanged the tones and everything. It sounded really good. So they're calling to try to find survivors. They're also radioing them.
This.
They're finding that basically this has been touched upon in one or two other movies, but the pilot, John, it's like, can you hear that? You can hear it over the engine of the helicopter. It gives you chills. It's the moans of the dead.
We can lift you out to safety. Please answer my call if you can hear me.
Forget it, Billy boy. It's a dead place. Like all the others, you know. Listen. You can hear it over the engine.
Jesus, baby, Joseph.
It's almost like what I've never been in one, but it almost reminds me of how scary it is when you first hear that. They say that it sounds like a freight train when there's a tornado coming.
Oh, wow.
You know something's coming, you know what it is.
Doom.
And it just, it actually, this is probably what I really like. This was amazing. There's a couple of other parts that really speak to me as far as on a very intellectual and, I don't want to say spiritual, but like a very, wow, this is making an amazing point that Romero is making with the script and what he says. So yeah, that was, I love the beginning of this movie. That really makes the movie for me in many ways.
David, I think better than even Dawn's beginning, and you know how much we love Dawn of the Dead. I wish the movie stayed almost in this atmosphere because it is so gorgeous. I feel like if we would have gotten this for the full movie, maybe more outside, although there is always that isolation with Romero's zombie movies, which is part of the charm, but this was done so good. The dead walk, the newspaper blowing up, that was recopied in the Resident Evil movies, that they paid homage to that. The streets were silent, and then they slowly unveil the zombies. We get the alligator that came out to show that nature has taken back everything. What do you think about Dr. Tongue, as they call him, that zombie that we see that leads up to the Day of the Dead title?
Well, he ain't Dr. Teeth because he ain't got none.
No, my God, Dr. Tongue. We watched Land of the Dead recently, like we were saying. It's going to come later on, but did you see in this one how there was less characters? Yes, there was the ticket booth zombie. Yes, there was certain zombies, but it almost seems like, again, in Land, and we talk about it then, that they put so many character type zombies in that it was like, well, you're a musician and you're the guest. I mean, they have it in here too. There's a clown zombie.
No, but the difference between I wasn't really sure if I was going to go into this because obviously the review and the conversation about Land isn't for a while after this one, but there's a difference between in the both movies. So in this movie, this is much more about the isolation, how people react in circumstances, the almost like return to like a very primitive, like you don't have these major amenities and supplies. Like, you know, you're not trapped in a mall where you can just put a new outfit on and
right,
go to the, you know, the McDonald's that's inside the mall and make something. This is like very raw, and it is much more about being in that bunker that we'll talk about later, where Land is almost like rehumanizing the zombies to have them repopulate the earth, so to speak, in a way. It's like, so it's big difference. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. So that is, again, kind of where I have to give it to Romero, where he has overall themes, obviously, besides zombies walking the earth. He has different themes of what he's doing. So Land is like rehumanizing them. Night of the Living Dead is purely like gives me that like Dracula, Wolfman, you know, but also talks about bigotry and racism and even sexism to do a degree.
Yeah.
And things like that. So there's always these little, it's almost like the ABC after, there's always
Yes!
some sort of the ABC after school special. There's always some sort
of the dead.
Of a lesson to be learned. And sometimes it's a lesson that none of us really want to hear. How we're calling these zombie savages, but the real savages are the human beings that are still alive to each other, because these zombies are just going on instinct to eat. We have choices to make, and we're making the most horrible choices.
Beautifully stated. And I have to say again, these are some of Romero's, I think, most likable characters in a way. He has a lot of dislikable characters in this movie as well. But I think Sarah, I think John, and I think Bill are really likable characters. Miguel, honestly, and I know him and Sarah are supposed to be in a relationship, but Miguel, and not just because what happens at the ending, I don't know, I never liked his character. You could tell that he sees Sarah, who, by the way, is again, here we go, strong female. She's stronger than half these people in this thing. Mentally smart, she's capable. And matter of fact, when the dead start coming, David, with the hello, Miguel runs as soon as he hears the shuffling and the moans, and Sarah's still looking and like waiting and like seeing if there's anyone there. So great character, I think. And her chemistry with John and Bill, I really like their characters. They're not maybe Roger, Fran, and Peter and Steven for me, but honestly, these are my second favorite group of Romero characters, I think. I mean, because who else do we really get? So then, David, we get back to the underground bunker. This always killed me. The fence that they have out around this bunker is the tiniest, thinnest fence. And I think we've always said this. Wouldn't we have built up more around the area? Because we see that there's these zombies trying to break in. They're growing things. I think marijuana, is the plant they're growing. But we see that they have a little outside area where the helicopter is. They refuel the helicopter out there. The fence gets me every time because they should have been doing something else, I think, to keep these zombies, unless they didn't think they were going to be down there for a while. They said it was thrown together in a matter of days, this operation. So we just went through a pandemic in a way, so you could see how fast things happen, I'm assuming. So they must have just grew this group down in a bunker, didn't figure out how long they were going to be there for. But the fence kills me. And they come right in at the end anyway, so
this is always something I always think about. So let's say you're trapped in an area and zombies are coming. If you kill enough zombies, can't they create their own barrier? Why isn't someone out there with like a weapon, a sword or something, sticking them in the eye through the fence and letting them drop? The weight alone would push back like their own barrier. Even though you're having it, they're going to be at the gate anyway decomposing, so it doesn't matter as far as the health.
Or would they climb up like that World War Z movie where they're just like, they climb on top of each other?
They might, but how much could they climb? You move them out evenly. You move over a little bit and let them come this way.
I mean, honestly, I would be doing that. But are they saving these zombies because they still want them as specimens? Because Sarah does say it takes too much to round them up outside. Because they have some down in a bunker below. I don't know how they did that. But they have a whole operation going.
This bunker thing is the funniest thing. It's like an RVs. It's got RVs down there. It was like military stuff. It almost looks like a combination of a 1950s doomsday / recreational facility for like Yosemite, or
because they have all those RVs. Yes, like a bunker, 100% a 50s-esque, this is the end of the world bunker, and they have kind of these RVs, but they also have, we learn later, John says, formulas, movie prints, everything to preserve history down in this bunker, which is a smart idea. But did they actually think this was going to be the final stand of humanity?
You have Sarah in the very beginning of the movie dreaming, she's marking days off on a calendar, and then like zombie hands all come through the wall at
Terrifying.
her. Here's the thing. We don't know how long they've been down there, because I'm going to tell you something. It seems like they allude to the fact that they've lost a lot of soldiers and people. They allude to the fact that they are running short on supplies, which is every movie. They allude to the fact they didn't have proper equipment to begin with because it was thrown together. And you see the mental state of all of the soldiers, how barbaric they've become, how nasty they've become, how aggressive they're starting to become. There's innuendos about, Miguel breaking up or getting rid of Miguel so that they can have a turn with Sarah.
Some lovin', Rhodes says. so all of us can get some lovin' or something like that. It's like, damn.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. Give some of the rest of us a shot at some loving.
Hey, it's gonna be a long winter.
Damn.
McLovin.
But what do you think about that too? I think that's terrible for Sarah being the only woman in that scene too. God, she holds her own, but
I often wonder about that. If I was the only woman,
would you be visiting?
Would I be generous? As I say, I'm being generous. Would I be with the ones that I loathe the most just to keep them in line?
I don't think you would have been with Miguel. I think you would have knocked him out of the room long before it got to that point.
You allude to the fact that Miguel also is angry at Sarah because he feels emasculated by her.
Yes.
He says that she's calm, she's cold, and kind of like emotionless. And Sarah is on a mission to either save the world, save herself, or figure out what's going on. See, Sarah is very much about, and even the other
doctor, yes, that's with her.
She's into analyzing. I don't know if it's empirical data or something.
Dr.
like that.
Ted Fisher, a technician.
She's pure research. She wants to know what's going on. So part of it is saving humanity. Part of it is her inquisitive nature to learn through actual data and collections of stuff. And it's the fact that she has a mission and she's trying to stick to it, which is actually within itself very amazing under the circumstances that they're going through. But some of them, there's a soldier that's like always laughing, like,
yes!
I would have thrown him in just to get rid of him, to stop the ridiculous screaming and laughing. Then she called them barbarians. She didn't use the word barbarian. And he was saying how,
basically,
all barbarians have big dicks. So it comes back to,
oh my God, that's
again,
right.
this savage sexualization that these guys are all about. I mean, you're facing
he says
the
biggest
end of the world
meat in the place or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And again, totally inappropriate. Secondly, it shows you how quickly society would break down and the rules of engagement that we have, that even though obviously, unfortunately, there's murder, there is rape, there are other things that go on in this world, we still have stuff in place to keep most of the savages at bay.
They're under this impression, the other doctor, Ted, Sarah too, to some extent, they're under this impression that people are going to find out that, they haven't heard from them and come save them. But I think that it comes to reality at some point, even with Rhodes, as evil and, conniving and bossy as he is. I could see after we get into it, like his men the dead bodies are being served to Bub. I could see how this martial law would happen with somebody in a military like this, especially when you think, this is it. This is all we have. And, you got to take control before more shit happens. But do you remember, David, when this aired on TV and they had... This David famously, I remember there was a TV version of one scene when Sarah is telling Rhodes off that we always joked about. When she says, in the movie version, she says, "Yes, sir. F you, sir." But in the one of the TV versions we saw, she said, "Yes, sir. Hello, sir." It works.
Hello, sir. So this again is like you're seeing the buildup of all this animosity and craziness, right? Power struggle.
Well, definitely a power struggle. And there is a scientist which they call Frankenstein. Richard Liberty plays Dr. Matthew Logan, the group's main surgeon and scientist. Now, unknown to Sarah and Ted, who is the other doctor, he has been doing experiments on, a matter of fact, not only the dead that they have, which they know about, but the captain recently ended up dead, who was in head of this, and he ends up using him for research. And Sarah says, if they find this out, they'll kill us all, like mutiny and stuff like that. But his whole plot is that he has a zombie that he is, in essence, trying to teach to be, not to see people as food. And this is Bub, played by Sherman Howard, who, David, was funny. He actually also guest starred on Charmed, an episode in season 4, Page to the Past. He played Clyde. He was the person who sent Paige back to her teenage teenage self. He opens the door. Leo had a call for him. So we see Bub again later on. Bub, while he does do movements like Big Daddy that we talk about in Land of the Dead, he still comes off more realistic to me, David. I don't know if it's because I've seen this movie 100 times or I'm used to him. As we see in Land, Big Daddy moves like a human again. At least with Bub, I will say he grabs the phone, but it's upside down at first. I'm assuming we get to the point where it's trying to say that Big Daddy in Land is far superior maybe than a Bub. But the acting, again, I think that Sherman Howard did so much more subtle things with Bub than, let's say, the over-the-top that Big Daddy was in Land of the Dead. I mean, Bub is the original, the type. I mean, we've seen this in Night of the Living Dead, like you mentioned, always with the zombie that breaks the glass with Barbara in the car. Dawn of the Dead, they kind of remembered the guns and they hold the guns. I guess this is the progression, but there's something still about the acting in Land that I just don't buy, that person was a zombie.
Say hello to your Annalise.
Yes!
You've got Dr. Logan, who they call Dr. Frankenstein. So they're actually also already saying that he's kind of nutsy and they're not sure what he's doing down there in the lab. He's always walking around with bloody gloves and blood all over his lab coat. He's like, kind of reminds me of the guy who's eating the sandwich on Jason or whatever, like the dead body
Yes.
So gross. Anyway, just like, let me use you as a plate.
No, I was going to say, there is a charm to this actor, though, in a weird way. He plays him almost with this childlike innocence, as crazy
but he's
as
also
he's
very
doing
sharp
things.
because he's sharp because he also knows how to shut the commander Rhodes down with his intellect. He basically is his premise is there's no way to reverse the process like the way Sarah wants to try to reverse the process,
which makes no sense to me because you're dead. Yeah.
But even if you could reverse it where people would just start dying normally that die, then it would be progress. His thought is to train them like dogs, basically. This is the introduction of that rehumanizing, a very small portion of the rehumanizing, but this is physically the character in the movie is trying to rehumanize Bub, who happens to progress.
Yeah.
He shows him how to use a tape player so he can listen to music, how to turn it on and off. He gives him books, Salem's Lot, pretty cool.
Yeah, Stephen King connection.
He gives him a razor and he cuts his face open, but he tries to learn to remember to, and he's looking in the mirror at himself. He's trying to make them more cognitive, that they are not just meat-eating creatures, but they are human beings or were human beings. So there's something to be said about that, because he basically says, and the statistic, like you said, he goes to the general, whatever he is, Rhodes.
Captain Rhodes.
Captain Rhodes, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? You want to leave here? Where are you going to go? They're 4,000 to 1. The only way we can get ourselves to not be eaten by them, we can't overtake them with guns. We're running out of guns and bullets and everything else. You have to domesticate them like a dog, basically.
Where will you go, Captain? You can destroy my specimens, but what about the millions more that are waiting to greet you outside? Do you really think you can blow the piss out of them? All of them? They have you in a hopeless situation strategically. You're lost. Well, you're lost unless...
Unless what? Unless what, Frankenstein?
Unless you can make them behave.
This is a fucking loony bin. I ain't being paid enough to work in a fucking loony bin.
I ain't being paid at all.
What's
your last paycheck, Steel?
Hey, check this.
All right, just shut up. Just shut up.
What the hell are you talking about, Frankenstein?
I'll be able to show you soon enough. Sarah knows. She's seen the progress I've been making. Isn't that right, Sarah?
Yes. There's been some progress.
What kind of progress? What are you talking about? Make them behave. What does that mean?
It means keeping them from wanting to eat us, for one thing. It means keeping them in check. It means controlling them. Controlling them.
When are you going to show us something that we can understand?
Very close, very close. I think in a matter of weeks...
I don't think there's any way you can tell how long anything is going to take.
The shopping malls are all closed. I like that little callback to Dawn of the Dead probably as well. But he's right in that way. But honestly, David, this would probably take forever. And they are running out of supplies and food. And Bub, I actually think, I mean, Sarah says it too, it's not what this one does, it's what it doesn't. He doesn't look at the doctor as food. Maybe it is something also special with Bub, but we do see that he does feed him with human flesh that he's gotten from the recently dead soldiers and things like that, which, I mean, there is a line there too. Is he completely crazy? Has he been pushed that? But then what is that later on when we're in his lab and they're playing his tape back and he's talking to himself like something about his mother or something? So there's something wrong with him too, mentally, of course. He's like, no, mother, or something like,
may I have another? May I have another, sir?
Dr. Logan has something clearly off with him. As much as he is, I gotta say, he's charming in some way. I don't know, like charming like that. He keeps it light, even though there's serious crap going on. So out of everyone in this bunker, at least this one's just like,
he's Grandpa Monster.
That is actually great.
He's
Scientist
Grandpa
in
Monster.
himself.
There's also a part where you find out that Bub must have been part of the military, and he salutes Rhodes, and Rhodes flips out because he's like, these things have eaten our people, and you want me to salute that rotting corpse pus pocket or whatever he calls them?
I don't want to defend a character like Rhodes, but some of the things he's saying is normal in the sense that someone who's seen people be murdered and killed and maimed by zombies probably don't want to sit there and be like, oh yeah, this is a wonderful thing, let me salute you.
But this is going down the rabbit hole. This is going down the rabbit hole though, because Rhodes doesn't really know at the time that he is really trying to train Bub to humanize him, so he doesn't understand. He thinks that they're playing now, that they're laughing, they think it's a joke, that they're
he walks in with Sarah like the one moment that this woman laughs in this whole movie. He walks in on her.
But slowly but surely, you see that Bub is changing. He's changing in the sense of that he
doesn't even grab Sarah. When Sarah walks into the lab at one point, he's in the shadows and she goes, but he doesn't go after her. He doesn't try to eat her. He kind of just like looks at her and moseys off. So I guess there is something to that. He's feeding the urge that the zombies have by feeding them food, and he's filling them, I guess, his time with other things. Like
I always thought this. You know how you said that this process is ridiculous. It would take too long. There's too many zombies. I often think about the process of, so let's say you were able to domesticate like 10 to 20 zombies. If you put them out into the herd of the other zombies, would they teach those zombies to not kill humans? Was that the premise of it? In other words, once you infect one, will that person become Big Daddy, but in the positive way? So you see Big Daddy in the movie Land of the Dead, or would they go revert back to savagery because they weren't being fed regularly? So you look at that
makes more sense, that question, David, because I kept saying, what is the whole point of this? Yes, I get it in one way, but what would this accomplish? So that actually makes the most sense if that was the idea. Because didn't Sarah also say that they had a surgery that they were attempting to do, maybe to almost lobotomize them? And again, she said it would take too long and only a few group of scientists would be able to perform the surgery. So it's like, what are they actually trying to achieve here? I would say the same question at the point. If you're running out of food and there's nothing getting done and people keep dying. Again, I know Rhodes is supposed to be a power crazed,
a douche.
Yes, and he is, douche. But at the same time, there is things that it's like, well, but that makes the most sense if that's what it was. Almost like we let this one go and he teaches the other ones.
Well, Logan, though, here's the thing. Logan makes a point of, again, where will you go? His point is he'll just keep working, doing his crazy stuff indefinitely till he can't do it anymore, because what else am I going to do?
Right. But at the same time, they're running out of food. They haven't had contact from, I think they said there was another place that they haven't had contact in within months. So it's true. But at the same time, if there is no food, what are you going to do? Okay, so also we get a tiny scene in which I think Sarah, for the first time, and this was taken by The Walking Dead, she does the Herschel special. But this is where it was created, right, David? This is where removing a limb from somebody, I believe, was the first time this was done on something. in
I
a movie,
believe
in a
so.
zombie movie, removing the limb to try to stop the infection. She does this to Miguel when he's bitten at one point. Now, we never find out if that would have actually worked, because he ends up killing himself and letting the zombies in at the end and ending the movie. But do you think she caught the infection in the Romero world?
Yes, because every single person that we've seen turn from a bite, 1, lets it go, 2, it's in an area where you couldn't cut it out, and 3, doesn't have time to tend to it. So even, yes, the blood is always going and this and that, but if you were to get bit by a scorpion on your finger and immediately cut your finger off, the venom from the scorpion bite would have not had time to travel. So, yes, that's something to take into consideration.
The fact that he didn't turn, he probably would have turned already. In his world, it happens pretty quickly. So if it would have spread, it probably would have happened within that time.
Well, because he was also very fragile, weak, and about to pass out.
We mentioned this earlier. There's a kind of corral area next to, in this underground bunker, there's an area that's sealed off.
The corral and recreational facility, the RV park / prison.
It's weird too, because at one point the lab looked almost like a break room that I was in a prior job. It looked like just like a school room, break room in a place. But anyway, I digress. Yes, but there is a corral area in this underground bunker. This is where they hold the subjects. But they said, David, one of the soldiers noticed that they say it is a joke, but they're not coming when they're called because they said they know what Dr. Frankenstein is going to do to them. Now, he says it, I think, as a joke, but Sarah takes this. She's like, yes, Rickles, they're actually learning. I don't know. Do you think that's what it was? I mean, I guess we see the progression, but they know what's going to happen to them in with the scientist? I doubt it. I doubt it. Not my dead. Not my dead.
Maybe they have telepathy like She-Ra and they talk to each other. Or like in the show that I can't believe they canceled my show.
Z-Nation, was it?
Z-Nation, where they can communicate with each other.
I like that they give little mythos to different zombies and try to change it up, but I don't know. I like my zombies dumb and dead. Slow, dumb and dead, should I say.
Like you like your men. I'm just kidding. What did Vanity would say? We like them tall, stiff, and ready, which is far more than I can say for dead Jimmy. What is that?
I was going to say, what did Vanity say? We like cocaine?
Vanity from Vanity 5. What was if a girl answers?
Vanity 6? If a girl answers, don't hang up. Yeah, she likes them tall, stiff, and ready, like Bob.
This is Vanity. Is Jimmy home? Single? Is that what you think? Trap, I'm dating your dad.
Oh, he died about 7 years back. Ain't that just too bad?
Well, that's how we like him. Tall, stiff, and ready. That's positively more than I can say for dead Jimmy.
So what do you think about the corral area, David? The OK Corral?
I would say it's better than going to the Golden Corral. You know, for those children touch everything. Buffets are nice.
Biscuits with honey.
What do I think about it? I think that they corral them just like they do dogs. They have a pole with a string that tightens up around the neck. It's again, we're talking about...
But they also had belts around their neck. These belts to fasten the things to.
But there's an exit out of the facility. That's where... they have to be putting them into to store them. So here what they're doing is they're trapping zombies, they're taking it and then having to take them through the facility to get them into... that's a lot of work. And so she's right. There's a lot of work.
She said they're not keeping good records. She's like, how do we know how many we have left and how many more we need to get? But I think they should have came up with something maybe to put over their heads or something. I mean, if you have this whole elaborate thing, put burlap bags on their heads or something. I mean, not for anything.
Listen, Al-Qaeda. What are you going to waterboard them to?
I mean, something. Keep them.
Tell me the secrets of the zombies. Tell me your zombie secrets. Who assassinated JFK? The truth.
We also get this great scene where Sarah is just had it. We see that she's getting headaches. Matter of fact, she keeps taking aspirin from this thing on the wall, and I just like, why you even have that over there? Just take the whole damn bottle. That's the communal aspirin play. She's taking the aspirin, throwing the shit on the floor, taking a sip of water, and she ends up getting with McDermott, the communications, Bill McDermott. So him and John live together in that little RV thing together, right?
Which is dangerously close to the zombies.
He said they like to live dangerously, and they have this whole setup where it's one of those RVs, like David was saying, and they did their own backyard, which even Sarah actually seems to enjoy. She's like, this is a great idea. But she says to them, I don't see you doing anything hard or working hard so she has a little resentment for them too. But he's the pilot. John does his job. He's the pilot. And Bill is the communications person, we said, with World War II, matter of fact, technology that he's working with.
Like their whole thing is that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be the muscle.
They're more technical.
They're not the muscle. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And this is, to me, is where the bonding moment happens, where it's a real eye-opener for Sarah, because John and McDermott know what's going on. They know that this whole thing is imploding and collapsing on them. They know that they can't stay there much longer. And they do have this kind of cute, like, setup where, remember, it was almost like
flamingos, pink flamingo out there.
Remember, like, when our grandmother had that detached garage where our brother would have like parties and friends over. I had my 16th birthday there, and you'd set up. It's like this room. It's a garage, but it's sealed off. Like the door it was sealed off, like it was a regular like apartment sort of thing, and it had a bathroom and everything. But we would be able to like have parties in there and hang out. It was like a hangout spot. It was really cool, actually.
Yes.
So it's kind of like they set up this thing where they like put like bamboo things up, blinds, and like fake trees and stuff. Where do they find all this stuff? Like a fake backdrop of like a palm tree and water. So they set up their own little paradise with lamps and stuff. It's very 60s, 70s vibe going on there too.
They got some macrame. They got some wooden, not macrame. They have what's that?
Don't be talking about macrame. My husband is totally into macrame. I got more macrame than I know what to do with. I'm gonna put a macrame picture up.
You got a throwback over there. Not macrame, like a Golden Girls-esque lanai, but in a missile silo.
So Sarah's brought down and she's talking with them, and this is probably one of the most profound parts of the movie for me. John says that he's been here. First of all, he explains what he does. I fly the plane. I'm supposed to fly the plane. He's supposed to do the communication. He does the communication.
They call him Flyboy again too. So either that's George Romero just haha, or he just loves to call every person who does a helicopter Flyboy as a nickname.
I mean, I have nicknames for people too. Bitch, jerk, a-hole.
Call her a bitch. Call her a slut.
Oh, God.
But they have a profound conversation. A matter of fact, David, I love this. John says, you're never going to figure it out, just like the stars in the sky. You're never going to figure this out. And I agree. They're never going to figure out what caused this, how it happened. George Romero didn't even figure it out. Could it be a comet that came by, what was it, Venus in the original Night of the Living Dead? They said it could have been something from that. You're never going to figure this out. So what time we have left, we should be enjoying and living it up, basically.
This is where he has that, and I have to correct myself from earlier in this podcast where I say it's like a philosophical. There's also a religious aspect. He goes, we're never going to figure it out like we haven't figured out the stars. He said, maybe this is God telling us that he's getting upset because we're always trying to figure his shit out. That's what he says. We're too big for our britches. He said, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. You're never going to figure it out. So why don't we, again, spend the time that we have, maybe find an island, have some babies, and forget about this society the way it was. Forget about this society. He goes, there's records of news clippings, of TV shows, of, world events, of metrics.
The businesses making the best money, the most money, and things like that. What does it mean? What does it mean?
It means nothing. It means nothing. And he says, let's get out of here. Let's take that whirly bird and go find some place where we can live our lives and forget about and teach our children to never come back here and look at these records. Never deal with this. And that's a very profound thing to say. He's saying basically that, to me, this collapse of this society, whether it be from God, whether it be because of us, is actually one of the best things that can happen, because all of this hierarchy and all of this materialism and all of this just horrible things is a simpler life. Go back to a simpler life. Forget about who cares who has the most money at this point. So to me, everything, he's basically, let's wipe it away and start over anew and create the world that we want to be in.
What does it matter, Sarah darling? All this filing and record keeping. We ever gonna give a shit? We even gonna get a chance to see it all? This is a great big 14-mile tombstone with an epitaph on it that nobody gonna bother to read. Now here you come with a whole new set of charts and graphs and records. What you gonna do? Bury them down here with all the other relics of what once was? I'ma tell you what is. Yeah, I'ma tell you what is. You ain't never gonna figure it out. Just like they never figured out why the stars are where they're at. It ain't mankind's job to figure that stuff out. So what you're doing is a waste of time, Sarah. And time is all we got left, you know.
What I'm doing. It's all there's left to do.
Shame on you. There's plenty to do. Plenty to do. So as long as it's you and me and maybe some other people, we could start over. Start fresh. Get some babies. And teach them, Sarah. Teach them never to come over here and dig these records out. You want to put some kind of explanation down here before you leave? He's one as good as any likely to find. We've been punished by the Creator. He visited a curse on us. So we might get a look at what hell was like. Maybe he didn't want to see us blow ourselves up and put a big hole in his sky. Maybe he just wanted to show us he was still a boss man. Maybe he figured we was getting too big for our britches, trying to figure his shit out.
He didn't know that Kaufman in Land of the Dead was gonna bring the money back and make a casino out there in Fiddler's Green with it. No, but don't you see the almost the lyrical structure of Dawn of the Dead with this? It's Ken Foray as Peter doing almost the no more room in hell speech, but he says something to the effect of also it is a religious thing. It's something like that. It's almost that same, and I think he says something about the hell and it's in that essence of that same kind of when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth speech.
He also says it's a great big tombstone. This whole facility, this whole thing is set up. It's a great big tombstone.
And you hear that echoing too. Yeah.
And you hear the cries of and the wailing of a few extra zombies that is in that little cavern waiting to be experimented on.
By the way, epic score. I don't know, we didn't mention this, but this score is beautiful. The beginning score when they're out in the field with the dead, but also they have two ballads for this movie, David, that I really like as well. It's very 80s Romero movie. It's definitely a product of 1985. There's a soundtrack with power ballads and things like that. Does it ever live up to you to the point of how good it was in the beginning when they first land and we see the dead coming and that ambiance that we get? Do you get more highs in this movie like that? Do you like the ending where Miguel lets in the zombies and we get that almost like the Dawn of the Dead when the zombies take over the mall? This is them taking over the bunker, and then they get their revenge, and then they rip everybody apart, much like they did to the bikers. Is it almost like matching lyrics? You know, like dawn, day. Well, I
think ultimately there's always the same theme. You're basically, man is powerless. You know, there's an expression. Our Aunt Kathy always used to use the expression, and I'm sure other people have used it. Man makes plans and God laughs. So it's like this thing where you think like you're going to push back the tides. Yeah, you might be able to build a dam, but eventually that water is going to break through the dam. It's like where we think we have the answers, we're going to be able to hold back the inevitable. So that's what happens when this influx of zombies. It could have been through Miguel. It could have been the gate falls down. It could be anything like that. You know, so at the end of the movie, the zombies do get in. Miguel actually opens up the gate. He gets eaten. And he pulls down the kind of the tower to the elevator thing and lets the zombies come in. Rhodes actually kills the doctor, Dr. Frankenstein, And Bub accidentally gets out, but Bub doesn't go to eat people. Bub goes to find Logan, the doctor. Dr. Frankenstein sees that he's dead, and he gets upset, visibly upset. He goes, "Oh!"
Like his father. It was a parent for him.
Now that's where you see that the doctor wasn't so far off. There is shred of humanity and he ends up taking up a gun and he shoots Rhodes. And then you get the best revenge scene where Rhodes is running from Bub after he's been shot a couple times by Bub, and he's like, "Come on! Come on! Come on!" And he's crawling.
Think of you. I always think
This is after Rhodes. This is after Rhodes leaves the rest of the men that's left over to get killed. But the zombie takes like a golf cart sort of a thing and zooms off to further into the bunker where the zombies are coming.
The recreational center. Yeah.
And so you have that part, and then you see where he crawls away from Bub and he opens the door, and the zombies are behind the door, and they pull him apart. And he says things.
Why do I think of you for this scene? I think of you going, "Choke on it."
Well, I may have said that before, not to you, of course.
I know, but this always makes me, even when I rewatch.
Maybe when I'm feeling saucy, that if I'm having a special moment, and I say, "Choke on it."
Oh my gosh! So he does say that when he's being eaten. I don't know why I always think of you imitating him saying that, but
because it's come on. He talks like this. Watch the movie. Come on, choke on it.
Come on, Toshi. Hey, Toshi, come on.
As he's being ripped apart, another thing that The Walking Dead got from
so this man deserved it. He kills the doctor. He puts Sarah and McDermott in the pen with the thing, so they're trying to find the way out to get to a ladder to get out. He has one of his men beat up Flyboy, John, to make him fly them out of there and leave everyone else to die. So what happens is John gets roughed up, and then he finally gets the best of him. He goes into the cage.
Because he says, "You're going to have to kill me. I'm not going to leave them. You're going to have to kill me. Kill me here now."
And he beats him up, and then he ends up going into the pen area and rescuing. So Sarah and McDermott are trying to fight off zombies basically in the dark with very little lighting. So he comes in with guns and starts shooting the zombies. They ultimately come to a ladder. They escape the zombies, and they see the zombies are coming through the fence. And they see, so you got the zombies coming through the fence. Then in the forefront there, then you have a little further past them, you have the chopper, which they're hoping was refueled because it wasn't fueled at the time.
Yep.
They're exciting the zombies, and they're gonna get through the gate. So then you have them running to the chopper to escape, and you see zombies walking towards it, and then Sarah opens the door, and then you see a zombie grab her from the chopper, but it's a dream. She's sitting in the back of the chopper. And they make it to an island, and you see she wakes up on the sand and on an island, and you see that John and McDermott are fishing, starting over. So yeah, there's a lot of things.
Is that the parallel then with her? It's again the dream, and she's also now this time she's writing a calendar again, because in the beginning she's crossing off it's October, and then we see in this it's November. So will this be the end of her nightmares? Is that what we're getting at, that she's in paradise now?
I don't know, but it's not the island from the remake of
Dawn
where they go to the island and all of a sudden, and that damn dog Chips barks, and then all the zombies come after them.
You mean the elephant stampede that it sounds like it comes at the end?
Chips!
Chips. I can picture the girl Monica making fun of her. Ooh, Chips, the blonde. So, David, at the end of this, they are on the island. Now, we mentioned this on Land of the Dead that's upcoming, but Night of the Living Dead 2, unofficial sequel, takes place on a remote island where a small group of survivors of the zombie apocalypse take shelter only to face fresh terror when flesh eaters find their way to the shore. And our three main characters from Day of the Dead, we have Sarah, John, and Bill, the actors, back on an island, unofficially playing these characters, we think. There's no other known thing. It's been filmed already, the movie, but it's three characters, zombie apocalypse on an island. They don't officially have the rights to use the names, but if they don't say the names, I'm thinking this is supposed to be the characters from Day of the Dead. It's too good that they have.
This is.
Yeah, it's coming out Night of the Living Dead 2, but like I said, the actors reprise their roles, but they can't officially call them this. And we have no other plot other than it's on an island and
they reprise their roles in 2022?
So we don't know too much about it, David, but it's called Night of the Living Dead 2. A sequel to George Romero's Zombies classic is in the works, but could it also be a Day of the Dead sequel in disguise? It's worth pointing out that the current project is far from a follow-up to Night of the Living Dead, because as we always say, Night is not copyrighted. So me and David could have made a Night movie. You all made a Night movie, Night of the Living Dead, at home. So this movie is called Night of the Living Dead 2, but they just happened to get the cast back again on an island. Will we get our Day of the Dead sequel?
And you can make Night of the Living Dead. And you can make Night of the Living Dead. It's like John Mayer. Everybody's been with him in the 90s.
Yeah.
And you were with John Mayer. And you were with John Mayer.
We know.
And you get a Night of the Living Dead movie.
So I hope this turns out to be something. If they can't use the character names, because also Day of the Dead has its own copyrights issue. Talk about sequels and remakes and TV series now. I mean, last summer we had the Day of the Dead sci-fi TV series based on George Romero. Everything's based on George Romero's Day of the Dead, but nothing ever comes close.
Stolen from George Romero. Stolen.
Basically, I mean, we've had 2 Day of the Dead remakes, a Day of the Dead sequel, and a Day of the Dead TV series, all that have nothing to do with the original Day of the Dead, but because the copyright is owned by somebody else, everything's Day of the Dead. So Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead could be remade 100 times.
Maybe they'll change the characters around. Like Sarah will be Fly Girl. She's the one that does the airplane. She's Fly Girl, and that'll be, I don't know. It'll be Joan the Fly Girl instead of John. It'll be
an army of
Sergey or something instead of Sarah. They'll just flip everything around.
I want Captain Rhodes to be a woman. That's what they're gonna do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
We saw that they made one of the Day of the Dead remakes had Bub be a vegetarian that ended up remembering that he was a vegetarian before death. Just don't remake this movie anymore. If anything...
Well, what's the one that I saw recently? It was called Day of the Dead.
Yeah, that's another remake of a remake.
Was it Day of the Dead with the actor with the same military facility thing, sort of a thing?
Well, Ving Rhames did a Day of the Dead remake where he was a Rhodes-esque character after playing in Dawn of the Dead remake. And then they made another, one was with Mira Sorvino, and then they made another Day of the Dead remake also with the military and on. There's 2 Day of the Dead remakes. Day of the Dead a sequel supposedly had nothing to do with it, and now the TV series.
But where was that the movie where, you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen it? There was that sort of, that attractive actor was the main character. He was a zombie, but something with his DNA, he was only part zombie.
Oh, yes, that's the newest Day of the Dead remake. Yeah,
and he was after the girl, the doctor or technician or whatever was doing his blood and everything. He obsessed with her. He carved her name into his arm, and when he came back as a zombie,
yes.
He didn't want to eat her. He wanted to do her.
Oh, these movie remakes.
Listen, without the remakes, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So we always have to thank the thievery, poor Romero, George Romero, may he rest in peace, or come back to life.
Yeah, we're still hoping. I know. If
there's gonna be a zombie apocalypse, you need to have George Romero come back from the dead. I'm just saying.
That's when you know it's official. Why don't they just take the script, David, the original Day of the Dead script? This Gone with the Wind with zombies? I know it said Romero said he basically took the concept he wanted to make this. Okay, so get this. It went from 7 million with that original script in 1985 down to 3.5 million. So that's a big blow. So what he could have did with 7 million, I'm sure they could do nowadays. And it doesn't matter if the characters are the same name because it could have been a remake. It just could have been a remake of that script. You know, if you're going to remake it anyway, why not use the man's original work and just film it? That's what I think. But David, out of the scheme of things, I think strong zombie movie. I actually really enjoyed it this rewatch again. It had been a while before I saw it, but it was a great rewatch, and it holds up so well, especially when you see what modern zombie movies are like, or AKA there you go, the Day of the Dead remakes that just were out there. A quality difference for sure. The acting is fantastic. You know, you dislike the characters you were supposed to dislike. You liked the characters you were supposed to like, I think.
Would you say that this is still Gone with the Wind fabulous? Like he said it was going to be Gone with the Wind of the zombie movies? Is it Gone with the Wind fabulous? Is it
Gone
with
the Wind fabulous, if anything, because I think it's the bunker really holds it back to what it could have been. I would have loved them to maybe did more helicopter runs around this, you know, just to see how much more is out there, but I know why it is. It's supposed to give you that element again of isolation.
I could have told you anybody should relate to isolation after this last 2.5 years. Would you say that it could have been so beautiful? It could have been so
right. Tiffany could have been contributed to this score, David. I think that I still would have wished they would just remake the script to see what we could have gotten. I've read the script years ago when I was in high school, so I printed it out. It was online, the original script. For some reason, I remember zombies driving around in golf carts and shit like that, like almost like that. I don't know. It was a little... He was definitely doing the same thing with training the zombies. But they were almost up to a military level, I believe, then.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Gone with the Wind fabulous.
You say I'm fake. I say I'm fabulous. You say I'm old. I say I'm fabulous. You say I'm ghetto. I say I'm fabulous. You say I'm crazy. I say I'm fabulous. I'm gone with the wind fabulous. I'm gone with the wind fabulous.
So, David, was it Gone with the Wind fabulous for you? Would you have rather had a bigger island movie with these characters out on the islands training zombies out?
I'm going to be honest with you. I would have wanted them to be in the bunker, and I would have liked to have seen the progression of this. Not as much backstory, had them implode on themselves, and then they escape the island, and then start the movie.
Ooh, more on the island that way.
Yeah, we failed the attempt. There would be a failed attempt to... I would have even done like a bizarre flashback sort of a thing where you see zombies being worked on by the crazy doctor. Like you see like bits and pieces of things going on. Like, and then you see the infighting. Then you see the hordes breaking through things and people fighting a little bit. And then you see them getting into the helicopter and then they start. Don't steal that, whoever's watching. That's my copyrighted script.
That's David's Day of the Dead version. We all got a version. We've all been
with her once before.
Oh man, the summer just keeps on coming with this Dead, David. My God, we're going from all different styles and genres, but nothing beats, I think, a good old George Romero foray into the Dead. That was another episode of the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. I feel like this episode probably could have went on even longer. It's one of those movies we've watched 100 times. We have a lot to say about it, but yet probably said nothing at all at the same time.
They don't know anything about the movie.
No. Did you learn anything about this? No. Zombies having sex?
Dead in bed. You can reach me at Universal Appeal 2020, all one word, #dead in bed. No dead in bed.
No, it didn't. And the Radical Retro Rewind, all one word, on Instagram, or also on YouTube. The summer's continuing, so we hope, though, that you are not dead and you're laughing hysterically at everything we said, because this was just riveting.
Oh my God, is that a rhyme? Are you going to be like the next Vanilla Ice?
The Radical Retro Rewind is just a rhyme in itself, trying to get that out with Radical Ryan Hunter. I don't know why I did all these R's. We're also on YouTube, where we have video formats of the podcast and much more. So join us again next week for another episode of the podcast, and we'll be back. Goodbye, David.
Pleasant nightmares. No, I don't know. Bye, people. Stay alive.
Is it you? Is it me? Holding on for so long.